Have you ever noticed that the more you explain yourself, the less people seem to respect you? You defend your choices. You clarify your intentions. You give reason after reason, hoping people will finally understand you. But instead of earning respect, you often invite more judgment, more doubt, and even more questions. That isn't an accident. The world has a strange rule that very few people recognize. The person who feels the strongest need to explain is usually the one who has already surrendered their authority. The powerful rarely rush to justify themselves. They don't because they know something that most people never learn. Every unnecessary explanation quietly transfers power from you to someone else. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed that power is not maintained by convincing everyone you're right. It is maintained by making your decisions appear final, deliberate, and immune to outside approval. Today you'll discover why powerful men almost never explain themselves, how excessive explanations weaken your image, and what silent confidence communicates that words never can. By the end of this video, you'll begin seeing every unnecessary explanation as something much more dangerous than harmless conversation. It is often the first crack in your authority. Before we begin, write this affirmation in the comments. I choose confidence over justification. This isn't simply a sentence. It's a reminder that your worth doesn't increase because someone approves of your decisions. Now let's uncover one of Machiavelli's most misunderstood principles of power. Because once you truly understand this, you'll never feel the need to defend yourself again. Most people believe they explain themselves because they are simply being polite. They think giving more details will help others understand them better. But beneath the surface, something far more psychological is happening. When you constantly explain your choices, you are often asking for permission without realizing it. You explain why you changed careers. You explain why you ended a relationship. You explain why you declined an invitation. You explain why you spend your money a certain way. Every explanation quietly sends the same message. I hope you agree with my decision. Machiavelli understood that authority begins to disappear the moment your decisions appear dependent on someone else's acceptance. A leader who constantly justifies every action slowly trains people to believe every action is open for debate. Instead of appearing confident, he appears negotiable. Instead of looking decisive, he looks as though every opinion has the power to change his mind. Confident people don't feel compelled to convince everyone. They recognize a simple truth. Not everyone deserves an explanation. They understand that disagreement is a natural part of life, not a problem that must always be solved. The need to be universally understood is often rooted in the fear of being rejected. And fear is something people instinctively notice, even when it is hidden beneath polite words. Notice the people with the strongest presence in any room. They speak clearly, make decisions calmly, and move forward. They don't spend 10 minutes defending a simple choice. Their certainty communicates more than a lengthy speech ever could. Ironically, the more you explain, the more questions people ask. They sense uncertainty. They begin searching for contradictions. They challenge details that never needed to be discussed because your willingness to keep explaining signals that the conversation is still open. Every new sentence invites another objection, another opinion, another attempt to pull you away from your original decision. Psychologists often observe that people respond to certainty before they respond to logic. While facts matter, confidence shapes how those facts are received. If you sound uncertain, even a good decision can appear weak. If you speak with calm conviction, even a difficult decision earns respect. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive. It means separating healthy communication from the desperate need to be understood by everyone. Not every opinion deserves access to your reasoning. Sometimes the strongest answer is simply, "This is what I've decided," and then moving on. Because every unnecessary explanation gives someone an opportunity to negotiate with your confidence, while every calm decision reminds both you and everyone else that your life is not governed by the approval of the crowd. There is a hidden law of human nature that Machiavelli observed repeatedly. People test whatever appears uncertain. The moment you begin defending yourself excessively, many people instinctively become prosecutors instead of listeners. They stop trying to understand you and start looking for weaknesses in your reasoning. Every explanation becomes an invitation for another question, another challenge, another opinion you never asked for. Imagine someone criticizing your decision. If your immediate reaction is a 5-minute explanation filled with details, emotions, and justifications, you've unknowingly accepted their authority to judge you. Now the conversation is no longer about your choice. It's about whether your explanation is convincing enough. You've changed the battlefield without noticing. Manipulative people understand this instinctively. They ask endless why questions, not because they genuinely seek understanding, but because they know every additional answer pulls you deeper into defending yourself. Soon, you're explaining things you never intended to discuss. Your private life, your finances, your relationships, your ambitions, your values. Meanwhile, they reveal almost nothing about themselves. Power has quietly shifted. Machiavelli warned against allowing others to dictate the terms of engagement. Whoever controls the conversation often controls the outcome. If someone can make you constantly defend your choices, they have already influenced your emotional state. You become reactive while they remain composed, and the reactive person rarely holds the stronger position. Powerful men refuse to play games designed by someone else. Sometimes the shortest answer ends the entire exchange. "I've already made my decision. I appreciate your opinion. That's what works for me. Nothing more." Notice how difficult that feels at first. Your mind wants to keep talking. It fears being misunderstood or seen as rude. But this impulse usually comes from the desire to be accepted rather than the need to communicate. The more comfortable you become with brief, confident responses, the less control other people have over your emotions. Silence often protects your position better than another paragraph ever will. The strongest boundaries are usually spoken in the fewest words. People eventually stop interrogating those who consistently refuse to seek approval. They learn that your decisions are not invitations for negotiation, but reflections of your own judgment. And once people realize they cannot pull you into endless justification, they either begin respecting your boundaries, or they reveal they never respected them in the first place. Human beings are naturally curious. What we cannot fully understand often captures our attention more than what is completely explained. This is why mystery has always been connected to influence. Machiavelli knew that people often respect what they cannot easily predict. A man who reveals every thought, every plan, and every motive becomes completely readable. Once people know exactly how you'll respond, controlling you becomes much easier. Your reactions become expected. Your decisions become predictable. And what is predictable is rarely intimidating. Silence interrupts that process. When someone asks why you're making a certain move, you don't always need to provide the entire blueprint. Sometimes a simple smile, a calm nod, or a brief answer is enough. This doesn't make you secretive. It makes you disciplined. Many people confuse openness with oversharing. They believe complete transparency automatically builds trust. In reality, endless explanations often reduce intrigue and weaken authority. The more you reveal before taking action, the more opportunities you give others to criticize, discourage, or influence your direction. Some people don't attack your plans because they're bad. They attack them simply because you've handed them something to judge. Think about the individuals who naturally command attention. They don't narrate every decision they make. They let their actions answer questions over time. People begin filling in the blanks themselves. And surprisingly, those assumptions are often more favorable than any explanation you could have given. Confidence allows others to believe there is intention behind your silence, while insecurity often feels the need to prove itself through endless words. Silence also gives you something explanations never can: flexibility. The more details you reveal, the more committed you become to defending every one of them. But when you speak only what is necessary, you remain adaptable without appearing inconsistent. You can change direction based on new information without feeling trapped by promises you made just to satisfy someone's curiosity. Mystery isn't about deception. It's about protecting your inner world from unnecessary access. Not everyone deserves to know your motives before your results speak for themselves. Your vision grows stronger when it is protected from constant opinions, doubts, and distractions. Sometimes your greatest advantage is allowing people to underestimate how much you've already figured out. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. Let them underestimate you. While they're busy trying to understand your next move, you'll already be making it. Because the man who speaks less often sees further, moves faster, and leaves others trying to catch up long after he has already advanced. One of the greatest advantages of speaking less is that you begin seeing more. While most people are busy defending themselves, they completely miss what the other person is revealing. Every conversation contains information. People expose their insecurities through criticism. They expose their ambitions through curiosity. They expose their intentions through the questions they repeatedly ask. But you'll never notice any of this if you're too occupied trying to justify yourself. Machiavelli believed observation was one of the ruler's greatest weapons. Knowledge gathered quietly is far more valuable than words spoken impulsively. The man who constantly explains himself gives away information, while the man who patiently observes collects it. Over time, that difference becomes an enormous advantage. The less you explain, the more others talk. And people almost always reveal themselves if given enough space. Notice how uncomfortable silence makes many individuals. They rush to fill it. They confess things they never intended to say. They exaggerate their accomplishments. They overpromise. They contradict themselves. They expose their frustrations, fears, and hidden motives without realizing they're doing it. Meanwhile, the calm observer gathers information without effort. This is psychological leverage, not manipulation through lies, but understanding human nature through patience. When someone pressures you for an explanation, pause before answering. That brief silence accomplishes two things. First, it prevents you from reacting emotionally. Second, it forces the other person to reveal whether they're genuinely seeking understanding or simply trying to challenge your confidence. Just ask yourself, does this person truly need this information? Or are they simply trying to satisfy their curiosity, test my boundaries, challenge my confidence, or gain influence over my choices? That single pause can change the entire interaction. Because power often belongs to the person who responds deliberately rather than automatically. There is another hidden benefit to saying less. You leave fewer openings for your own words to be twisted against you. Every unnecessary explanation creates more details that can later be misquoted, misunderstood, or used in ways you never intended. People rarely remember your entire explanation. They remember the single sentence that supports the story they already wanted to believe. The man who speaks carefully protects both his reputation and his peace of mind. He understands that information is valuable, and valuable things are never given away carelessly. Instead of trying to control what everyone thinks about him, he controls what he chooses to reveal. Ironically, this restraint often earns more respect than any perfectly crafted explanation ever could. There is one habit that separates those who command respect from those who constantly chase it. The respected man lets results do the talking. The insecure man keeps trying to convince people before anything has happened. Most explanations are really predictions. You tell people why your idea will work, why your decision makes sense, why they should trust your judgment. But every prediction creates an opportunity for doubt. Someone will question your reasoning. Someone will point out a flaw. Someone will insist they would have done it differently. Now you're trapped in a debate that never needed to exist. Machiavelli understood that promises are fragile, but outcomes are undeniable. When your life consistently produces results, explanations become unnecessary. Your discipline explains your priorities. Your financial habits explain your decisions. Your calmness explains your emotional control. Your boundaries explain your self-respect. Your success explains your confidence. Words lose against evidence. Think about the strongest people you've ever met. Chances are they didn't spend hours convincing everyone they were capable. They simply continued working while others talked. They understood that recognition earned through action lasts far longer than approval gained through persuasion. This is where many people fail. They announce every goal before taking the first step. They explain every strategy before testing it. They defend every dream before building it. They seek encouragement before they've developed discipline. Then criticism arrives. Not because the dream was impossible, but because they invited opinions too early. Every person you tell becomes another source of doubt, advice, comparison, or expectation. Before you've built momentum, you're already carrying the weight of everyone else's opinions. Powerful men move differently. They build quietly. They improve privately. They fail silently. They learn without making excuses. And when success finally appears, the very people who question them are left with nothing to argue against. Results have a unique power. They end debates. They silence criticism. They replace speculation with reality. No explanation can compete with undeniable evidence. Your life should become your explanation. Every hour spent defending yourself is an hour not spent becoming undeniable. Instead of explaining why you're changing, invest that energy into becoming so disciplined, so competent, and so consistent that your transformation speaks louder than anything you could ever say. Because in the end, people rarely remember what you promised. They remember what you became. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that everyone has earned the right to understand them. They haven't. Your thoughts are valuable. Your plans are valuable. Your ambitions are valuable. Your motivations are valuable. Treating them as public property weakens your position before you've even begun. Machiavelli understood that influence is not only about what you do, but also about what you choose to keep private. A man who reveals everything leaves himself with nothing that cannot be anticipated. But a man who protects his inner world remains impossible to fully read. Many people ask questions that sound innocent. So, what's your next move? Why did you choose that? What are you planning? Sometimes they're simply curious. Other times they're measuring you, comparing themselves to you, looking for weaknesses, or searching for details they can criticize later. If you answer every question completely, you give people a map to your thinking. And once someone understands your patterns, They become far more capable of predicting and even influencing your behavior. Powerful men protect their inner world. They don't reveal every ambition before it's ready. They don't discuss every opportunity before it becomes reality. They don't seek applause while the foundation is still being built. This doesn't make them cold. It makes them intentional. Privacy creates freedom. The less your decisions depend on outside opinions, the easier it becomes to follow your own convictions. You stop adjusting your path to satisfy people who have never walked it. You stop carrying the burden of expectations that were never yours to begin with. There is peace in knowing that not every conversation requires complete transparency. Sometimes, the strongest response is simply a smile, followed by "we'll see." Those two words reveal nothing, yet communicate complete confidence. They neither invite debate nor encourage unnecessary curiosity. They allow your future to unfold on your own terms. Leave room for your actions to surprise people. Because once your plans become everyone else's discussion, they often stop becoming your priority and start becoming your performance. Instead of building your vision, you begin managing other people's expectations. Real power grows in private long before it's recognized in public. The strongest foundations are built where applause cannot reach. Protect your mind, protect your vision, and let your success introduce itself when the time is right. If you spend your life answering every demand for justification, you will slowly stop living according to your own principles and begin living according to other people's expectations. That is the quiet trap Machiavelli warned against. Real power is not loud. It is not argumentative. It does not chase approval. It stands firmly on its own decisions and allows time to reveal whether those decisions were wise. Think about every moment you've over-explained yourself. Did it truly change someone's opinion? Or did it simply leave you feeling more exhausted? Now, imagine a different version of yourself. A man who chooses his words carefully, who speaks with intention instead of impulse, who trusts his judgment enough to let silence carry what explanations never could. That man is difficult to intimidate, difficult to manipulate, difficult to control. Not because he is hostile, but because his identity is no longer negotiated through other people's opinions. This is one of the greatest forms of freedom you can ever develop. The freedom to make a decision without announcing it, to set a boundary without apologizing for it, to walk away without writing a speech, to succeed without seeking permission. Remember, silence is not weakness. It is the discipline of knowing that your value does not increase every time someone agrees with you. Your life will always speak louder than your words if you give it enough time. So from this day forward, stop asking yourself, "How can I make them understand?" Instead ask, "Why do I need their understanding in the first place?" That single question can transform your confidence forever. The less you need to explain yourself, the more your presence begins to speak for itself.